dream, your motivation, your joy. Maybe it was a spark you found during your career, a new surprising joy in your professional life that you didn't see coming. It might be having an impact. It might be healing. It might be giving animals a voice. Maybe it's comforting clients or teaching or mentoring, providing for your family. The list is endless. I want you to hold on to that feeling. And now open your eyes. Because for many of us, that initial joy, that passion can feel lost in the relentless pace, the emotional weight, and the sheer demands of our profession. Which is why today we're going to talk about how to reclaim that joy, how to move beyond simply surviving to truly cultivating a thriving and fulfilling career in vet med. So I do want to share a quick but important disclaimer. While I'm deeply passionate about this topic, I want to make it clear that I'm not a licensed therapist. I'm not a human medical professional. My insights come from my very own personal place, my journey through burnout as a vet, and my subsequent drive to help colleagues avoid that same path. So what you'll hear today is a combination of, real world research, guidance from my own therapist, my own coaches, knowledge from a bunch of different books and podcasts. I always like to mention too, is that if you ever find yourself in crisis or grappling with difficult thoughts, please know that you're not alone and reach out to those human health professionals. There are so many resources I'm going to provide through this presentation and at the end as well. And always remember that seeking help is a sign of strength. So now you know a little bit of why I'm here today. Here's a little intro about me. I'm a Penn Vet graduate. I have 20 years of experience in vet med, 10 of those in hospital ownership. My journey has spanned from owning and operating hospitals outside of my hometown near Philly to leading the charge on some innovative solutions at Shepherd Software. I'm really passionate about empowering veterinary professionals to keep their passion by providing them with the resources and support they need to thrive. And of course, no presentation is complete without a glimpse into my personal life. So here are my 2- and 4-legged family members. All right, so today's agenda. Hopefully by the end of the presentation, we're gonna go over all of these kind of points. Understanding burnout, de-shaming and normalizing, understanding a stress cycle and how to complete it. We're gonna have some actionable steps and resources, including how to create a thriving plan, and then I'll go over those resources. If we can save questions till the end, I'll be happy to go over any other questions you have for me. All right, so let's get started. First, I want to start by normalizing burnout. Because guys, this is a tough industry. Most of us have experienced some sort of work-related stress, anxiety, burnout, or worse. So if you're experiencing any of those feelings now or ever have, the first order of business is understanding that you're not weird, you're not bad, and you're not failing. We need to acknowledge and validate that burnout is a very real, very common problem for veterinary professionals. We have to destigmatize that discussion, making it safe to talk openly about it in forums like this, but talking about our mental health and overall well-being without fear of judgment or without fear of repercussions. And from there, once we can talk safely about these issues, we can encourage everyone in the industry to truly support each other and share our experiences with each other. And that's only going to help build a stronger and more resilient community. So traditionally, we've all heard, we've talked and heard about this elusive work-life balance, right? A rigid separation. It's almost like a seesaw where equal time and energy are dedicated to work and personal life. And for me, this really kind of implies a strict division, right? 8 hours work, 8 hours personal life, 8 hours sleep. But today that, really kind of feels unattainable and unrealistic. We feel guilty when one outweighs the other, and long term, it just doesn't work. It's not sustainable. So instead of a strict separation, I prefer the term work-life harmony, which acknowledges the inherent fluidity of modern work and personal life. It's about blending the two intentionally, allowing them to flow together rather than fighting for equal time. This concept is similar to a theory from Brené Brown, and it's talking about relationships, spouses or partners, that it's never a 50-50 in that relationship, even though that's kind of what we're taught to believe, right? Some days, maybe I can only show up with 20%, and my partner might have the reserves and pick up the other 80. Maybe another week, I can give 70%, and they can only give 30. So it's a constant give and take, but one in which we all feel supported. But the key here is to plan. So what happens if I'm at 20% and my partner's at 30? Where does the rest come from? It's about having a plan in place to determine what absolutely must happen and what we can forget about. So if we only have a combined 50%, maybe that home cooked family dinner we were planning, maybe it's not that important for our mental health. And maybe I just DoorDash dinner. Maybe that means I'm more intentional in the future and I can plan. When I know there's a chance I might be at 20%, maybe I meal prep, or I have some frozen slow cooker meals in the freezer, or I save up DoorDash gift cards. The point, whether it's in a relationship or when we're talking about work-life harmony, is that I have a plan. And I also give myself the grace that it's okay to not be at 100% all the time. So work-life harmony encourages just that, a plan to be present and engaged in whatever we're doing at a given moment, optimizing our energy and focus for both professional success and personal fulfillment. It's about intentionally designing a life where work fits into your desired lifestyle rather than a separate demanding entity. So just like my relationship might be 80-20 one week, 70-30 the next, some weeks might be heavier with work. Maybe I'm filling in for a coworker and I'm working overtime. Maybe it's just a really crappy week and I'm staying late all the time. We don't have to feel guilty because we know that the pendulum is going to swing back. And hopefully in the next week or in the near future, we can prioritize our wellness items, our self-care, if we have the planning and forethought in place. So the goal here is that work and personal life are working together, supporting each other, giving the grace when one needs a little bit more attention. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about the anatomy of burnout. There's the what, those are the signs of burnout, the how, which are the stages, and the why. Why does it happen so much more in vet med? So the what, these are the early signs of burnouts. It doesn't hit all at once, and it can kind of sneak up on you through small, persistent changes. So catching these signs in yourself and others is really key. Herbert Freudenberger is the first person who described burnout in the 1970s, and he describes these three main components. First, there's emotional exhaustion. This is the feeling of being completely drained and overwhelmed. It's usually from carrying too much for too long. It's more than just being tired, and regular sleep doesn't fix it. You might notice some health issues, differences in sleep patterns, and even neglecting personal needs or self-care. Next, there's depersonalization or cynicism. You start to feel detached and negative towards your job, your colleagues, and your clients. It's a coping mechanism, but it can make you feel indifferent or even lose empathy, even when you know you should have that empathy. And then finally, there's reduced personal accomplishment. You begin to doubt your ability to do your job well and feel like your efforts don't really make a difference. And this leads to a loss of job satisfaction and self-esteem. You withdraw. All too often, I see colleagues treating these struggles as normal or even as a badge of honor. But I'm here to tell you it is not the status quo, and it's not that badge of honor. Change starts with recognizing the signs. We have to stop gaslighting ourselves and telling ourselves it's okay, this is a normal amount of stress. Because as I'm going to talk about later, while your brain may try to tell you this, it's gaslighting our body that it's still experiencing the physiological effects of stress. And it is the body that truly keeps the score. So next, the how. Burnout typically unfolds gradually through a series of stages, although not everyone is going to experience this in kind of a linear fashion. So first, the honeymoon phase. You have a new role, you're excited, you have high energy, you're eager to prove yourself, right? You're taking on a lot and you feel good about it. But next, you have the onset of stress. Initial enthusiasm can fade and your demands are increasing. You might notice some mild fatigue, irritability, trouble sleeping, and that is going to lead you to have to work even harder. Next, there's chronic stress. Stress becomes constant. You can expect persistent fatigue, anxiety, cynicism, procrastination, and neglecting of self-care. Your relationships are going to start to suffer. And then there's burnout proper, and this is crisis mode. This is the peak of burnout. You feel severely exhausted, leading to significant distress and difficulty functioning. It may be severe and it may be debilitating. Finally, there's the habitual burnout or total collapse. If unaddressed, burnout can become chronic, potentially causing long-term health issues like severe depression and a complete inability to engage with work or with daily life. So while work harmony benefits everyone, it's especially critical in vet med because we have some unique pressures. We have an unrelenting demand. Our deep commitment to animals means constant, overwhelming workloads and often long hours. There's emotional and compassion fatigue. We're always exposed to animal suffering, grief, tough situations, including euthanasias. We have moral dilemmas that we're facing heartbreaking decisions due to costs or limited resources where people can't provide ideal care. We have self-imposed pressures. I'm known, I'm also falling guilty to this. Many of us feel intense pressure to be perfect or clinically sharp, and we can hide our internal struggles. There's blurred boundaries. It's hard to separate work from personal life, leading to emotional highs and lows without enough time to recover. And finally, there's that administrative overload. Beyond patient care, we have mountains of paperwork and significant stress eating into our personal time. So these factors all highlight why finding that work-life harmony isn't just nice to have in vet med, it is really essential. So what is post-traumatic growth? This is it's a positive psychological change experienced as a result of struggling with highly challenging and highly stressful life circumstances or trauma. So post-traumatic growth isn't about denying the pain or the distress of that trauma. It's recognizing a new understanding of yourself, of others, of the world, and can really lead to profound personal growth. There's actually a really interesting study. It's counterintuitive with counterintuitive results. They were looking at veterans with PTSD. In this study, veterans with moderate levels of PTSD symptoms, not the ones with low or no symptoms, but the ones with moderate levels of PTSD are associated with the greatest level of post-traumatic growth. So the reason here being that the struggle itself can be a catalyst for growth. So again, this isn't about pretending that burnout was easy or painless. Instead, it means coming through it with a deeper appreciation for life, stronger relationships, a renewed sense of personal strength, or even new career possibilities. So up until a few years ago, I had no idea what a stress cycle was, and let alone how to complete it. So the next few slides, we're going to go over what a stress cycle is, and this is really just the surface here. I'm kind of giving you the TLDR on the stress cycle, how to complete it, and what really helped me. I really like this because my brain functions best with science, and you always hear things, stress relief and what to do, what to look for, but when you put the science behind it, that's really when it kind of clicked for me. So if you're interested in this, I highly recommend diving a little bit deeper. Again, I'm going to have some resources throughout. All right, so this one's not going to be news to anyone, most likely, but I want to quickly review our trauma responses. Our bodies have 4 automatic ways of reacting to perceived threats: fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. These are primal survival instincts designed to protect us, right? So they're great for obvious dangers, but they can become really problematic when triggered by ongoing stress, emotional threats, or past traumas. So here's a quick look at each. Fight. This is when you confront the threat. Your heart races, your muscles tense, you get a rush of adrenaline preparing for confrontation. You might feel angry, aggressive, or need to control the situation. Flight. This means escaping or avoiding the danger. Your body gets ready to run. This can look like withdrawing, avoiding social plans, or constantly being busy or escaping discomfort. Freeze. When fighting or fleeing isn't possible, your body shuts down and plays dead. You might feel stuck, numb, or unable to act. Fawning is a little bit less commonly discussed, but it's an equally important response, often developed in situations of chronic or relational trauma, like a childhood abuse. The fawn response involves attempting to appease, please, or pacify the threat to avoid conflict or harm. So this can lead to people-pleasing behaviors, difficulty setting boundaries, suppressing one's own needs and opinions, and an overwhelming desire to maintain peace at all costs. So these 4 Fs are simply your body's instinctive survival attempts. Understanding them helps you recognize your own stress responses and work towards healthier ways of coping, especially since we are humans in the 21st century with very modern stressors. All right, so this next section is loosely paraphrased from a book I mentioned that introduced me to the stress cycles. It's called Burnout, The Secret to Unlocking the Stress Cycle by Emily and Amelia Nagoski. The stress cycle actually has 3 pretty simple parts: a beginning, a middle, and an end. And they use a lion analogy to illustrate this primal biological purpose of the stress response and how we so often get stuck in modern life. So imagine you're a human out on the African savannah. You're an early human out on the African savannah. And suddenly you spot a hungry lion and it's charging directly towards you. This immediate physical threat triggers your body's ancient and hardwired stress response. Your heart rate and your blood pressure rises, your breathing becomes rapid and shallow, your pupils dilate, Your attention narrows and your blood starts to redistribute. Then our bodies have to react in one of those four ways, again, driven by primal survival instincts. Fight. Maybe your body floods with stress hormones, preparing you to directly confront that lion. You might scream, pick up a branch, or prepare to strike, believing you can scare it away. Flight. If the lion is too big or too fast, your body's next instinct is going to be to flee. Stress hormones are going to send blood to your leg muscles, preparing you to run as fast as you can to escape that danger. But if neither fighting nor running seems possible, maybe the lion is too close, you're cornered, your body might go into a play dead state, right? You'll become still and numb and hope the lion loses interest, or maybe you can conserve energy for a later escape. Fawning, while is not really, doesn't directly work in here, but you can think of a lion as a powerful kind of inescapable figure from your past, maybe like an abusive caregiver. You learn to appease or please this lion to avoid harm, prioritizing their needs to survive the ongoing threat. All right, so here's the important part, the end of the stress. So after successfully fighting off, fleeing from, or even freezing through a lion attack, a primal human would instinctively complete the stress cycle. They might shake, tremble, cry, run, or hug their other tribe members upon returning to safety. This physical shaking or trembling is an innate, involuntary, and natural mechanism for discharging excess energy built up during the stress response. It helps to downregulate the sympathetic nervous system and activate the parasympathetic nervous system. This physical release signals to the body that the danger has passed and it's safe to return to a state of calm. And not only that, but the body can then start to eliminate that adrenaline and cortisol and start restoring neurochemical balance and homeostasis. We also see our patients do this, right? After a dog is restrained for a nail trim, what happens? They jump up and they have a big old shake, right? They walk around then, their tails wagging, visibly more relaxed. That danger of the nail trim has passed. They shake it off, have the physical stress cycle complete, and then they can safely return to a state of calm. The problem in modern life is that our lions are often intangible. They're deadlines, financial stressors, social media, societal pressures, the patriarchy. Our bodies still trigger the same physiological stress response, but because we can't physically fight, flee, freeze, or fawn away from a spreadsheet or an email, we rarely complete the stress cycle unless we do it intentionally. So while there is hopefully not an actual lion charging you, it highlights why to truly deal with the modern stress, we have to engage in activities that tell our body the lion is gone, it's safe now, even if that stressor itself can't be outrun or fought. This stuckness, when we get stuck not completing the stress cycle, is what leads to burnout and all of its physical symptoms. In fact, again, the stress itself can be more harmful than the actual stressor unless you let your body finish the stress response. Think of it this way. While you're dealing with life's daily pressures, your body is quietly dealing with the physical impact of that stress. Again, it's not a lion that we can get away from, but that email list, our brains know it's not going to chase us down and maul us, but your body is reacting to the stress as if it could. Because it's not just in your head, right? Chronic stress is going to deeply affect the body. When your body's stress response doesn't complete this cycle, it can take these three big physical health issues, right? So chronic fatigue, physical health first, chronic fatigue, deep, persistent tiredness that sleep doesn't fix, aches and pains, tight muscles, stiff neck from that unreleased tension. We can see digestive issues, problems like IBS, acid reflux, because digestion is actually suppressed during stress. We have sleep disturbances because your body is having a hard time calming down. Heart problems, hormonal imbalances, because dysregulation goes beyond just cortisol and it can affect mood and energy. Prolonged stress from burnout is also going to impact your neuroendocrine system. So your stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline are going to lead to chronic inflammation and a weakened immune system. And in your brain, burnout can cause an enlarged amygdala, which is your fear center, making you more reactive. It can thin the prefrontal cortex, impacting decision-making, planning, and self-control. And we also see impacts on the hippocampus, which lead to memory issues and learning difficulties. So I mentioned a few slides ago that we are actively gaslighting our bodies in addition to not completing the stress cycles. So because remember, stress is a physiological event in your body, whether or not you've dealt with the actual stressor. We know that simply removing that stress isn't enough, and we have to actively do things to help the body complete that cycle. The next problem we run into, though, especially in modern days, is trying to mentally dismiss stress with phrases like, don't worry about it, or this is a normal amount of stress. Everyone goes through it. Or how many times have you had somebody tell you, don't worry, don't stress about it? All of that can actually prevent your body from not only completing the cycle, but it turns your brain into a bully. By gaslighting our bodies, we're making the stress actually harder and faster. So the bully analogy helps explain what happens when we constantly leave those stress cycles unfinished and how the brain actually rewires itself and becomes a stressor itself. So when we experience chronic, uncompleted stress, our neural pathways become more sensitive and reactive. They're constantly on high alert. Our brain's alarm system becomes really, really sensitive. So minor stimulus, perceived threats that normally wouldn't cause a strong reaction, can all of a sudden set off a full-blown stress response because they're primed for danger. It's like a leaf setting off your security system when it really should be burglars, right? So once these hyperactive bundles are triggered, your stress response takes over more quickly and more intensely. It's loud because of the overwhelming physical feelings, your racing heart, tense muscles, and it's fast because it reacts instantly. And like a bully, it's hijacking your attention and making it difficult to think clearly. So this creates just a vicious cycle. Your constantly activated stress system, which is designed to protect you, is now becoming a source of stress itself. That alarm system is so afraid and terrified of its own shadow that its constant false alarms are making you perpetually stressed. So in short, chronic, unaddressed stress can rewire your nervous system, turning your body's protectors against you and making you more prone to burnout. All right, so here it is, the moment we've been waiting for, right? I'm sure a lot of you are like, all right, already, let's get to the solution. How do I complete a stress cycle? So these are 7 evidence-based strategies. None of them are going to be a big surprise, but I want to call out that even though that they seem small or insignificant, these are actually about signaling to your body that the lion has passed and it's safe to return to a calm. So first, physical activity. The most efficient way to complete stress cycles is to move. Your body's stress response is designed to prepare you to move, fight or flight, right? So engaging in any activity that gets your body moving for even 20, 60 minutes, a brisk walk, dancing, running, or even stomping your feet. For all my Grey's Anatomy fans out there, think of Meredith and Christina dancing it out at the end of a hard, scary, or stressful day. Dancing it out helps metabolize those stress signals and tells the brain, I survived, I'm safe. And if you can dance it out with a friend, you're going to check a few more boxes here as well. Next is breathing. Intentional deep breathing is a direct way to calm your nervous system. Focus on slow, deep breaths, especially making your exhalation longer than your inhalation. A simple technique that I like is like box breathing. So breathing in for a count of 5, holding for 5, exhaling for 10. Next, there are positive social interactions. Again, think about Meredith and Christina dancing it out. The point here is that connection with others helps the brain regulate emotion and send safety signals. Laughter. A genuine belly deep laugh is a powerful release of tension. There's also affection or physical touch. Safe, consensual physical affection helps release oxytocin, which is the bonding hormone, and can help counteract stress. Even a 20-second hug with a trusted person or a gentle touch with a pet can signal safety and connection to your body and calm that stress response. Crying is another natural and healthy physiological mechanism for releasing emotional and physical stress. So don't suppress those tears. Crying, especially cathartic crying or ugly crying as I call it, allows the body to process and release that accumulated tension and emotion. Finally, there's creative expression. Engaging in creative activities provides an outlet for processing these complex emotions and again signals a return to safety or joy. So we've explored burnout's anatomy and veterinary's unique pressures. We know what a stress cycle is, how to complete it. Now I want to talk about moving from just surviving to actively thriving, because this isn't about adding more to your already overflowing plate. It's strategically and intentionally creating a personalized thriving plan that moves beyond short-term coping, and it's really for sustainable well-being and career fulfillment. Because thriving isn't just a finish line that we cross, it's a continuous journey of adapting, learning, and growing. All right, so a thriving plan, again, isn't about avoiding stress, but processing it effectively and nurturing your mental, emotional, and physical health. And most importantly, it's unique to you. So start small, experiment with what works, and discover what doesn't work, right? First, identify your top stressors, your lions. These are going to be different for everyone. Maybe surgery really stresses me out. Maybe it's making sure I can leave the hospital in time to pick up the kids. Maybe it's meal planning, angry clients, fractious cats. Next, identify your personal burnout signs and be honest with yourself. For me, one example when I stopped doing my nails. I used to go get a pedicure every month. Going back to the anatomy of burnout, I stopped my self-care routine. It felt like it didn't matter anymore. I was apathetic to almost everything that I used to find joy in. Then choose one or two specific but actionable strategies to integrate into your daily routine. Over time, you can add more, but this is how we start to tackle it. We start to evolve. It doesn't have to be all at once. And finally, schedule it. Just as you put your own doctor's appointments on the calendar, we put our clients into our PIMS, make the time for yourself, especially your self-care. So these are the pillars of your thriving plan. They're all interconnected, and some will become more or less important to you throughout the journey. So first is completing the stress cycle, what we just went over. Stress is physiological and needs release. There's mindful time management, shifting from just managing tasks to mindfully managing your energy and setting clear limits to protect your well-being. We need to foster meaningful human connection and combat isolation by actively building supportive networks. We want to reconnect with your why, reignite that initial passion and purpose in vet med. We want to leverage our resources with technology, utilize tools and support to reduce your burden and improve your well-being. And finally, prioritize true self-care. Engage in activities that genuinely replenish you and not just the trendy ones. So I'm going to go a little bit in more detail to all those pillars. First, completing the stress cycle. I know this is a repeat slide, but it's so important. I put it in here twice. So again, how do we do how do we complete a stress cycle? Move your body. It's the most efficient way is physical activity. Connect with friends, laugh, cry, get creative, hug it out, or simply just breathe. But remember to complete your stress cycles. Mindful time management. This is about a fundamental shift, right? From just managing your tasks to proactively managing your energy. And so first, that starts with identifying your top 5 life priorities and rank them 1 to 5. This is just my list. It's also an invitation to define your personal hierarchy. So first is my mental and physical well-being. This is my foundation. If my engine isn't running, nothing else can. Prioritizing your health isn't selfish. It's essential for everything else you do. And then there's my spouse and my children. For those with families, these are likely your deepest connections. Are they getting your focused presence or just your leftovers? Next, there's core professional responsibilities and contribution. This is why you're a vet or a vet tech, your passion and your impact. Next are friends, extended family, broader social connections. These are crucial for support and joy, but often they're the first to get cut. How do you intentionally nurture these relationships? And then finally, there's community engagement and giving back. This can add fulfillment beyond your immediate work. Where do you find meaning in broader contribution? And again, the power here is ranking these for yourself and adding other ones that aren't on this list. It's what genuinely gives your life meaning and energy. When you know your top priorities, it empowers you to say no to any misalignment and yes to what truly, truly matters. So next is calendar management. Schedule every task. Yes, even answering emails and doing callbacks. And this will help avoid distractions and domino effects. If it's important, it needs a slot. Your calendar should be in line with your values and your priorities. So give each one of your top priorities a color. Color coding makes it really easy to see when one priority starts to monopolize your time and leaves another priority with limited or no attention. So if your top priority is self-care, but you only see this in 10% in the calendar, it's a great way to start adjusting and moving our blocks to be more effective. So we want to designate specific time for everything to really help stop that chaos and work within your energy levels. Don't fight your natural rhythms. For me, I'm at my best and productive in the mornings. So I'm going to schedule my biggest tasks then. And then use one calendar. So many times we're juggling multiple calendars, but that leads to overload and missed commitments. And finally, set realistic expectations for your schedule. We're not robots, so don't overpack your day. Figure out how long tasks actually take and then schedule it with breaks. And this isn't about rigid scheduling. It's about proactively blocking your time with your absolute high priorities. Figure out what matters to you. Identify your important tasks and build your day around them. For me, I start by dedicating non-negotiable slots for my mental and physical well-being. Again, these are so important for my ability to show up for everything else. And remember that life happens. It's perfectly okay to move an event if needed. The key is just not to forget and skip over it or ignore it. Just reschedule it. And always, always celebrate. Celebrate what worked. And if it didn't work, that's okay. Celebrate the opportunity to try again. Beyond just scheduling, it's also vital to build in some breathing room. So I'm talking about buffers and margins. Buffers you can think of as a little mini break between tasks. They're short, intentional gaps to absorb minor delays and allow for smooth transitions. So one late meeting isn't going to derail your whole day. Margins are blocks of white space in your overall schedule. They're unallocated time to handle unexpected events, prevent overload, and give you flexibility for deeper work or even rest. All right, so we've talked about how human connection is vital for well-being and a key to complete the stress cycle. Positive interactions here signal safety to our nervous system, releasing oxytocin to help calm us down and regulate us on our emotions. You don't have to be a Grey's Anatomy style dance off or a big grand gesture. You can focus on small moments, micro moments, if you will, of small but positive exchanges. And remember that humans are fundamentally wired for connection. To our ancient brain, being alone or feeling isolated is often perceived as a threat, which can keep our stress response activated. And yes, some of us, myself included, consider ourselves introverts, but this applies to us too. In your interactions, big or small, just be present. And luckily, it's super easy, again, with those micro moments, using eye contact, putting distractions away, offer genuine smiles, maintaining open body language. All of these can help fulfill our primal need of feeling calm and together with our companions. And finally, a strong social network isn't just nice to have, it's a powerful buffer against the daily stressors and immense weight of a demanding profession like vet med. Knowing you're not alone and having a supportive community reduces feelings of isolation. And so to strengthen this, use names to create more personal connection. Check in often. A quick, genuinely curious, how are you really doing can make all the difference. Lead with curiosity. And speaking of curiosity, number 4 is all about that. In a demanding field like vet med, the daily grind can easily overshadow the passion that first drew us in. Burnout often takes hold when our sense of purpose fades. So reconnecting with your why, your fundamental reason for being here, is a really powerful antidote. And what does that look like? What does reconnecting with your why look like? First, there's intentional reflection. Regularly dedicate time, that could even be 5 or 10 minutes a week, to reflect on the positive impacts you make in your work. Highlight your success stories. Share and celebrate big or small wins with your team. Pursue passion-aligned professional development. Seek out learning opportunities, certification, or special interests that genuinely excite you in vet med. There's mentorship, both giving and receiving. And then there's focusing on the human-animal bond. So take moments to really appreciate the unique connection we have between pets, their owners, and us. The 5th pillar is about working smarter, not harder. It's utilizing the tools and support systems to alleviate administrative burdens, boost efficiency, and enhance your well-being. And what does that look like? Tools like cloud-based PIMs can streamline tasks like scheduling, optimizing your workflows, or utilizing tools in the tool belt that decrease repetitive tasks. There's mental health resources. Know and utilize low or no-cost support like employee assistance programs or organizations like NAMV. There's digital communication, tools like Slack, Google Drive. They can really improve staff collaboration and decrease time on manual tasks. Use smart calendar systems. Outlook, Mac, and Google all have them. Review your calendars weekly. Your calendar should be for results, not just tasks. So this means don't write creative time on your calendar. Be specific. Maybe you want to finish that scarf you've been knitting or write the intro to the book that you've been working on. Create your calendar for results, not just the task. Finally, let's talk a little about boundaries. Boundaries are fundamental to protecting your energy, preventing burnout, and thriving in veterinary medicine. The funny thing about boundaries is that most of us forget that we actually have to tell other people about them. We have to state them out loud, right? So I used to get so upset when my receptionist would routinely book a euthanasia for me first thing in the morning. So instead of checking on my patients, rounding, preparing for a day of appointments, I would start it kind of cranky and feeling rushed because I felt like I had to rush, right? And because of that, I felt like I didn't give my patient or my client my best self. And euthanasia is something that's very near and dear to my heart for providing a really happy peaceful transition. So when I felt rushed, I felt like my patients and clients weren't getting my best work. What I realized is that I expected the receptionist and the rest of the team to be mind readers. It was as if I had an owner's manual, like a car has an owner's manual, but I never gave it to them. And yet I expected them to have it memorized cover to cover. So remember to prioritize your needs, your top 5 life priorities, because no one else is going to do it for you. But then identify your limits, your needs, your values, and talk about your boundaries openly and clearly communicate that to anyone in your life, whether that's in the office, at home, whatever. And once those boundaries are established, be consistent, because inconsistency, where we withhold our boundaries one day and don't the next, really sends mixed signals. So when we're talking about setting boundaries with clients, to effectively do this, we want to set expectations early, outline the services you provide, the cost, establish your preferred communication guidelines. You can specify things like phone, email, or text is preferred, and reasonable expected response times. Manage their expectations. Be explicit about your working hours and manage those after-hour contacts with clear instructions for emergencies. Finally, address any unacceptable behavior politely but firmly to maintain those professional boundaries. To set effective boundaries with coworkers, it's essential to clearly communicate your work hours and availability too. You should practice delegation whenever possible. And remember that no is not a bad word and no is a complete sentence. You're not obligated to take on every request. Actively and fiercely protect your time off by setting out of office replies and only checking in when absolutely necessary. And then finally, distinguish between professional and personal relationships. This one's a tough one for all of us, but it's important to maintain professionalism in all your workplace interactions. What about setting effective boundaries with personal time? So we want to prioritize and schedule our self-care first. I know I'm sounding like a broken record, but that's intentional. It's that important. So implement technology boundaries, turn off notifications, badges, and alerts. This one was a big one for me. And it sounds really simple, but just by turning off that little badge that tells me I've got 5 new emails, and I actually moved my, on my phone, I moved my app to an entirely different screen. I found that those little badges were triggering to me. And as soon as I opened up my phone, even to do something for myself, maybe I want to go play a crossword, I would open my phone and I would see that little number and go, oh, I have to immediately go. It just became a reflex to go to my emails or my text messages, my voicemails. So that was a really powerful small tool just to get it out off of my radar. Actively protect your weekends and days off. Engage in activities, and when you do have that time, engage in activities that really bring you joy and replenish you. And last, communicate clearly with your loved ones, letting family and friends know your boundaries, and not just about your personal life boundaries, but your work too. Ask them and show them, tell them how they can best support you in maintaining those boundaries. So here are some amazing resources, and there's definitely a lot more out there. If you want to know more about stress cycles, highly, highly recommend the Burnout, The Secret to Unlocking the Stress Cycle by Emily and Amelia Nagoski. Next is a Let Them Theory by Mel Robbins. It's all the craze right now, but honestly for good reason. The TLDR here is that people will have their opinions and behave as they will, right? Regardless of any efforts you have to manage it or control it. The book's about setting boundaries, accepting what you can't change, and choosing your own well-being over external validation. The third book here is 4,000 Weekends, Time Management for Mortals by Oliver Burkeman. The TLDR here is that the average person only has 4,000 weeks in your life, and you're never going to get everything done. So instead of trying to squeeze more in, accept that not everything will get done, choose what truly matters, and embrace the discomfort of saying no to everything else. There are also some really great podcasts out there. Unlocking Us with Brene Brown. It talks about what it means to be human. It has raw, honest conversations about emotions, experiences, the courage it takes to foster connection and empathy. Bloom Your Mind with Marie McDonald. Marie is actually one of my coaches that I've worked with in the past. She's amazing. She helps, to stop putting off your dreams and ideals and overcome things like self-doubt, people-pleasing behaviors, perfectionism. And by overcoming these things, she walks you through how to action and bring your ideas to life, not just, sometime, someday, but now. And finally, if you're a fan of the let them theory, Mel Robbins has a podcast as well. So remember that burnout and anxiety is our job and not the status quo. These questions were actually given to me by one of my coaches. And whenever I found myself feeling any symptoms of inadequacy, doubt, anxiety, or burnout, this is my go-to starting point. If you can't read all of it, just Google "everything is awful and I'm not okay." And you should find plenty of examples like this. So I'm not going to go through all of them, but they're just really great kind of check-ins with yourself. So have you eaten today? No, go eat and then come back. Have you showered? Are you hydrated? Have you snuggled your pet today? So just really kind of great questions to start thinking whenever you're starting to kind of feel some anxiety and stress. I'm assuming everyone here is familiar with NAMV, but they're an incredible organization offering a wealth of support for well-being within the veterinary community. They take a multifaceted approach, focusing on peer support through initiatives like veterinary mental health support, their anonymous lifeboat forum. They also prioritize awareness, education, and outreach, providing educational resources, activities, and programs like the Clear Blueprint. There's also tangible resources, including a curated list of support options and emergency support grants for individuals and clinics. Essentially, NAMV provides a real comprehensive safety net, ensuring veterinary professionals have access to help, connection, and education that they need to survive and thrive. We've covered a lot today, from understanding burnout to building a proactive, thriving plan. We've talked about completing the stress cycle, managing your time, fostering connection, reconnecting with your why, and prioritizing true self-care. So as we conclude, I kind of want to bring us full circle. Remember when I asked you to close your eyes and picture that spark, that deep passion and joy you have in veterinary medicine, or even life in general? Hopefully you've been thinking about that throughout the presentation, but bring it front and center right now. Because here's the truth. Our most valuable resources are our time and our attention. Every moment we spend on one activity, like endlessly emptying an email inbox or not saying no to that aggressive client, we are implicitly deprioritizing something else. We're choosing. And given our finite capacity, we have a responsibility to intentionally align our time and attention with our top life priorities whenever possible. Now, of course, we can't say no to every bad part of our job, right? But we can better plan and have firmer boundaries. We have to protect that spark. So we are not sacrificing what truly matters, that initial passion for animals, for healing, for impact. We're not sacrificing our own well-being or our families for less important demands that drain us. We can reclaim that joy. We can move beyond merely surviving by proactively managing our time and attention. And so I will leave you with this message in conjunction with Not One More Vet, is that you are never alone. Stress affects all of us in veterinary medicine, and there's absolutely no shame in feeling stress or anxiety. My hope today is that I've provided even one or two ideas to help you realize it doesn't have to be that way. We don't have to live in a state of perpetual stress. You've shown incredible strength just by being here, by investing in yourself. So keep that momentum going. Ask for help, asking for clarification, for resources. Those aren't just signs of strength. It's how we build a stronger, healthier veterinary community together. So if you have any questions, please feel free. My QR code has my contact information, some other kind of things that I'm doing in this space and others. So please feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to talk shop. And that is it for me. I would love to open it up for, I think there's, yes, QR code here too for a survey and sealing. But I'd love to open the floor for any questions. All right. Sorry, I'm seeing, looks like a couple of them were frozen. So I'm making sure. Oh, there we are. Okay, cool.
April has a question.
Here, can we unmute April, or is there a place to type questions? Sorry, I'm usually used to Zoom meetings.
Yeah, so we can put questions in the chat.
Okay, cool. Where's the chat? There we go. Okay. So I don't show, it won't, oh, April, I'm sorry. It says that it won't unmute her. April, if it won't let you unmute, can you put your question right in that message as well? I think April's typing right now too. All right, so I will be speaking about emotional intelligence and boundaries for vet tech soon. Any advice as a vet? That's a great question. So if I'm understanding correctly, this is your presentation is going to be for vet techs, and any advice on how you can advice for them in kind of dealing with vets, I think is kind of is where you're going. I actually just saw something on TikTok last night and I almost included it in this, but it's really, it's again, it's setting boundaries, and that's even, there's a way to do it. I think sometimes we feel like setting boundaries makes us rude or crass or people are going to get upset. And honestly, if they do, that's kind of like, that's on them, right? Like we can't control how they're going to respond. All we can control is what we do. So the example that I saw was a vet saying, oh, can you please go give, 1 cc of this medication to that pet, and how we should encourage our vet techs to not let us do that as vets, right? Because that's how we miss things. We have errors in medical, in giving injections, or we forget things. So just like in human med, not verbalizing, having that be a boundary, right? Is not verbalizing your treatment plan and utilizing your PIMS and putting everything down in writing so that you're not missing things and there's no miscommunication there. So I think that's a big one. And it's also sticking to them as well. And that doesn't mean being, again, you don't have to be, bold or rude about it. But just more around, reminding them and saying, hey, I will absolutely do that. Do you mind putting it in the computer for me real quick? And Valerie so the fourth Merck study focused on the non-veterinary members of the team. Oh, that's great. I'm going to click on that as well. Oh, thank you. Yeah. So to elaborate on April's question, do you have a resource on setting boundaries? As a subordinate, it's hard to understand what this looks like. I think absolutely. And I think that will help for, CSRs, nurses, techs, assistants, and even, even the vets, I think, can even build on this too, because we have our medical directors or even corporate entities, right? All of those, I would say hands down, the Burnout book and the Let Them theory would be my two go-tos for how to manage your boundaries best. Especially the Let Them theory actually has a separate kind of business one on how not just in life, but specifically towards work. I don't know of any veterinary specific, but I think taking and applying those from Burnout and from Let Them, I think those it would be the two biggest recommendations I have. I know I sound like a broken, like a broken record, but they've really been kind of pivotal in my understanding of them too. And please reach out, if you ever want to collaborate or bounce ideas off in another, we can always get on a little Zoom and talk more too. My calendar link is in my QR code. Ensure that practices support the team and help create boundaries. I think it is, and that's a great point. I think it has to be, it's not just one person. It's finding teams, or if you are in, if you own your hospital, it's really making sure that you're all on the same team, having buy-in with the whole team and talking about it together. It's not culture shoved down your throats. It's how does this look to us? What do we want our culture to look like? And part of that for me is we want to have healthy boundaries. We want to make sure that we're supporting each other, that we're listening to each other. So I think that it's kind of a holistic approach versus an individual approach with that too. And I will let me see if I can do that. Yeah, and there's my QR code again. So I'm always happy. I'm super passionate about this. I wish, I had more time to dive into it, but I'm always happy to talk shop. If you ever have any other ideas or anything like that. Any other questions?
I'd like to stump for some of NAMBI's resources that can help with completing the stress cycle that we talked about today. Specifically within the context of these questions, our Clear Blueprint program is a workplace well-being program that really helps foster that buy-in, and it can give that structure for developing these conversations that help everybody be involved in setting the boundaries and effectively developing the culture that's going to allow us to be the most effective practitioners in veterinary medicine. So Clear Blueprint is an opportunity to learn more about that specifically. And we also have peer support opportunities to engage with the community, whether that is receiving peer support or being available to offer peer support. We have those opportunities available as well. Again, just different ways that NAMBI can help you to complete that stress cycle.
Stop sharing. All right, so have giving people a few minutes back in their day if there's no other questions, or I'm happy to stay here too and see if anything else comes up.
If you have any questions about the QR code, please feel free to email us, and NAMBI will help with that.
Is it possible? Will you send the PowerPoint to anyone afterwards? Is that a typical thing you do? This is my first non-VMet webinar, so.
I think we might be able to.
Okay.
I can look into that for sure.
Well, and I can actually drop my email, or yeah, just have them. They can reach out to you. That's okay.
Yep. Info@namvi.org.
Great. All right.